Okay. Now, in the same chapter, which was the Dynasty of the Holy Grail, the final chapter in the book,
Yeah.
you identify Joseph of Arimathea as the stepfather of Jesus. Are you still of that opinion, and can you give us your reasons for this identification? Recently, I've obviously read your book. I've spoken to Dr. Stephen Pidgeon, who says that he was the grandfather of Jesus. The most popular opinion, it would seem, is that he was the uncle of Jesus. And Edmund Marriage, I think, said he was James the Just, the brother of Jesus. So we get all these different answers.
Again, I've changed my opinion on this.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yes.
Right, okay.
I think you have to go with what we're told in the text.
Yeah.
And they tell us he was the uncle.
Yeah.
Either the uncle of the Virgin Mary or the uncle of Jesus. I tend to think maybe he was the uncle of the Virgin Mary. And that way, his granddaughter would have been first cousin once removed of Mary. And it says in the text, in the genealogies, that Anna was the cousin of the Virgin Mary. I was arguing in the Holy Kingdom that Mary probably married again.
Yes, Alpheus.
Alpheus. I was saying that we've got all these different Marys, and we can start to narrow them down. Mary, the daughter of Alpheus, same as Mary, the sister of Jesus, and all this. I now don't think Alpheus was Joseph of Arimathea.
Okay.
Now I leave it open that maybe the Virgin Mary wasn't a virgin and got married after Jesus was born. I don't see why. I'm being struck with a cough now. I don't see that she has to have been a virgin for the rest of her life.
No, yeah.
Maybe she was. Maybe she was. I don't want to be disrespectful to her that way. But at the same time, Jesus could have had brothers and sisters by the normal, natural way.
Yes.
After the angel had done his stuff and whatever they did. So I'm open to that. But I don't think he was the same as Joseph of Arimathea, because it doesn't say that in the text. It's never been taught that. It's always said that he's Jesus' uncle. He might have been great uncle. And I go with that.
And he was he was supposed to be a tin merchant or a mineral merchant, but in a document I read by Wilson and Blackett, they said that they disagreed with that they don't think he was, but they didn't give any reasons why, which was really frustrating.
They could be like that. But, what we do know is that Cornwall was where people dug not just tin, but also copper.
Copper, yeah.
And there was lead from the Mendips, and there was copper in North Wales. And Alan and Barham told me that they used to mine lead in Wales as well. And they said, for every 100 tons of lead, you get 3 tons of silver. Yeah, that's what Alan said to me. So maybe they had ways of separating the silver from the lead. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to me that he went to Cornwall, where there was a little island where St. Michael's Mount is.
Yes.
And that used to be called the Island of Fish. So the rich Fisher King would have been the guy who owned that island.
Wow.
And that would be where, probably once a year.
That's very interesting.
Once a year, the people have been digging. They have these things called fugus in Cornwall. These underground chambers. Nobody knows what they're for.
No, I don't think I've heard of
they're
those.
stone-lined chambers, and there's a number of them. They're always not very far away from where they would have been mining their tin. And I think they would have stored the tin in the fugu, as they're making it. That's a protected safe, really. The safe as it could be, probably guarded with stones, the entrance and so on. And then when the ships came from the Mediterranean and they come up to the island, then we're told this in the Greek text, how the traders would come there and buy the tin. and trade for other things. So you can imagine they would take their tin out and they go with either carts or they go with boats to the island, and then they do their buying and selling and buying stuff.
Wow.
And trading.
Yeah.
And that would be the island. And just across the water, from St. Michael's Mount, you've got Mara Zion. Yeah, Mara, Sea of Zion. Zion,
Yeah.
you know? So these are, that would be a Jewish enclave.
That's another island, is it?
No, it's on the coast there.
It's just on the coastline,
yes,
yeah?
right opposite. So
Right.
Mara Zion would have been a Jewish settlement. You know?
Well, a big coincidence.
Yes,
yeah.
it's all there, you know, if you look.
Wow.
So that's where Joseph would have gone normally.
Yeah.
But he could also have gone round and sailed up the Severn and gone to Glamorgan. It's not difficult.
Wow. Amazing to contemplate all that. Okay, Adrian.
You getting tired?
No, not really. No, we're all right.
I'm just starting.
I'm on my last question. The last question is, at the beginning of the book, you write very warmly about the time you spent with Alan Wilson and Brian Blackett in South Wales. What's your favourite memory, the highlight of that experience for you, do you think? Can you remember, or have you got an anecdote you can share with us?
So many. Probably going up Manatagaya for the first time and seeing the church there.
Right, and that's where you think Joseph of Arimathea is buried?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's where King Arthur's buried.
King Arthur is buried, right, okay. Arthur too?
Arthur too,
yeah.
But I think also Arthur 1.
Right.
I think they're both buried there.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I've gone back from a lot of what Alan believed Arthur II died in America.
Yes.
Now I thought at the time, that's a step too far and I'm not going there. So I left that out and just said he's died abroad.
Well, I suppose Vikings possibly went there, Romans possibly went there at one point.
Yeah. Well,
it's not impossible.
That's someone else's debate.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't believe it.
Right.
But, you know, Alan certainly did. But what I do now believe is that the tradition linking Arthur I with Cornwall is real, and that there was a battle of Camlan was in Cornwall. Now, Alan disagreed with that. He believed it was out near Bilford Haven, you know, West Wales.
Yeah.
But there is a big stone from that period actually in the River Camel.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And that river leads down to the coast, not very far from Tinchagel. So I can imagine that someone could take the body of Arthur on a barge down to the coast, then sail up the River Severn, and then go up the Ogmore River and the Iweni, and all the way up to Manatagaya, take him up there. And I believe that the St. Peter, that church is called the Church of St. Peter.
Yes, that's the one that Wilson and Blackett had excavated, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is very close to Clan Ilid.
Right. Okay.
Where Joseph of Arimathea lived.
Yeah.
Wow. And at Clan Ilid, you got this big, giant circle. And I was so struck. Yeah, probably this was the highlight for me. First time I scrambled up into that circle, and it was May, and the bluebells were in flower.
Lovely.
And it's just sort of wooded.
Yeah, lovely.
The atmosphere was something else. And I now believe that that is the real core Urgine, founded by Joseph of Arimathea for Urgine, the daughter of King Caractacus, and that people would gather there and they would sing. You know, that's why I call it a choir. You know, inside the core.
Yes.
You know, a lot of early Christianity was to do with singing. And it had to be open and outside, so the sun could see what you're doing, the eye of God. I don't believe it was Clan Iltid, Clan Major. I've moved away from that.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a confusion of Iltid and Ilid, the two names.
And they're about 300 years apart, aren't they? I think, or something like that.
And I think people have thought that Iltid just refounded the Kurvirgine. I don't believe that. There's nothing there to show. It's a very rugged area if you ever go to Llanfair Pager.
I'm hoping to, yeah.
Yeah. There's no sign of any earth circle or anything there, but there is a Llanhilly.
Is that the place where you have to walk down to it? It's
Yes.
quite low down.
Yeah, you walk down. It's a very long church, been extended. Great place.
Yeah. And it's the place
with.
with the three heads on the wall, the pagan gods. Is
I
that?
think that was in. No, you're thinking of Llandaff Cathedral.
Probably.
Yeah, that's where the three heads, and that is down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say before we close that the Welsh for Peter is Pedr. Yeah. But when they conjoin that with the word for church, clan, the P becomes a B. It becomes clan Bedr.
Yes, I remember you mentioning this before. Yeah, it's
now I
interesting.
believe that they spell things all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
So it can be Pedr or it can be Pedrir. Yeah, and then it becomes clan Bedrir. Yeah.
This reminds me
So
of...
Bedivere.
Yeah, go on.
Now I was going to say that if you go into the Mort d'Arthur, you read that, and after Arthur dies, Bedwyr, or Bedivere, we call him in English, is the one who takes his body and buries it, and he becomes a hermit, and he lives there for the rest of his life. Alan claims to have found a hermitage there, where the church is. Yeah, the earlier hermit, a round, beehive-shaped hermitage. Yeah. And that's where they found this votive cross. Yeah. Now, annoyingly, he didn't tell me about that when we were writing this book. That's why there's no mention of it. Yeah. He was keeping that secret. He didn't trust me or something. I don't know.
Possibly,
thought I was going to nick it. Or...
I don't think he trusted anyone, did he?
No, not at all. Now that's apparently it's in America. Oh. Along with the King Arthur Stairs, a mess. Yeah. What they've done with the legacy. They told me before. Have you done the last question? Is this the last one?
Yes, this is the last question. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I have great respect for them for the way they opened up this field.
Absolutely.
Which was closed for that. Nobody was talking about this in Welsh records.
They've done an awful lot, haven't they? Yeah.
Tremendous amount. I don't agree with everything they did, but it's very, very unfortunate that they were not treated with more respect by academia, that their books were not adopted. Our poor book, I spent ages writing. You can imagine the work that went into this. It was out of print in 18 months.
And yet somebody bought up a lot of copies, didn't they?
Well, Alan and Barham did.
Right, okay.
But anyway, as a result of that, the general feeling persecuted all the time, and then I know people do draw things like that to themselves to a large extent, and it mounts up. You get paranoid.
Well, there's lots of people, including myself, that are going to take this work forward and keep going with it. So,
well, I do. If anyone out there is a publisher, serious publisher, I don't mean just putting it up on Amazon or something. I mean a serious publisher. That can get them into shops. I'll be open to getting this republished.
I was going to ask you about that. We need it to be published.
I'm the only one left, And Alan's nephew says he doesn't want anything to do with Alan's work. And Barham, his brother's already dead, and his mother's dead. I don't think he has any other relatives. So I'm the only one left. Okay. So if anyone out there is a publisher, let me know.
Okay. Should we end it there?
May as well.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Adrian. It's been fantastic. Cheers.
We'll have a bite to eat.
Yes, lovely. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.